The Legend of the Water Demon. As the sun began to set over the tranquil waters of Okanagan Lake, a group of friends decided to take a leisurely boat ride. They were laughing and chatting, enjoying the peacefulness of the evening. But little did they know that they were about to become the target of a water demon that had haunted the lake for centuries. As they cruised along the lake, the water suddenly became choppy and the boat began to rock violently. The group tried to steady themselves, but it was too late. Without warning, a dark shadow appeared beneath the surface, circling the boat. The friends were frozen with fear as they watched the creature rise up from the water. Its eyes glowed a menacing red, and its scaly body seemed to stretch on for miles. They knew they were face to face with the legendary Ogopogo, the water demon that preyed on unsuspecting victims. Suddenly, the creature lunged at the boat, causing it to capsize. The friends were thrown into the freezing water, struggling to stay afloat. But Ogopogo wasn't done with them yet. It began to circle them, taunting them with its sinister laughter. One by one, the friends began to disappear beneath the surface, dragged down to their watery graves by the demon that haunted the lake. The last friend managed to cling to a piece of debris, watching in terror as the creature disappeared into the depths. As he drifted alone on the dark waters, he knew that he had encountered a true water demon, a creature that was beyond his understanding. From that day on, he never spoke of his terrifying encounter with Ogopogo, afraid that he would be seen as a madman. But in his heart, he knew that the water demon was out there, waiting to claim its next victim. Years passed, and the legend of Ogopogo continued to haunt the people of the Okanagan Valley. Some believed that the creature was simply a myth, while others swore that they had seen it with their own eyes. One man, in particular, was obsessed with the legend of Ogopogo. He had heard stories of the creature since he was a child, and as he grew older, he became determined to prove its existence. He spent countless hours studying the lake, interviewing locals, and searching for any evidence that could prove the existence of the water demon. But despite his efforts, he had no luck. One night, the man decided to take his boat out on the lake, hoping to catch a glimpse of Ogopogo. As he cruised along the calm waters, he couldn't shake the feeling that he was being watched. Suddenly, the water began to churn, and a massive wave rose up behind his boat. The man turned to look, and his blood ran cold as he saw the dark shadow beneath the surface. He tried to start the engine and speed away, but it was too late. The creature rose up from the water, its eyes glowing a sinister red. The man screamed in terror as the creature lunged at him, dragging him down into the depths. Days later, his empty boat washed up on the shore, a grim reminder of the legend of Ogopogo. The people of the Okanagan Valley knew that they would never be safe from the water demon, and they lived in constant fear of becoming its next victim. As the years went by, more and more people went missing on the lake. Some bodies were never found, while others were recovered with strange bite marks and scratches. The legend of Ogopogo became even more terrifying as people shared stories of the creature's attacks. Some claimed that it would drag people down to the bottom of the lake and drown them, while others said that it would swallow them whole. Despite the danger, thrill seekers continued to flock to the lake, hoping to catch a glimpse of the water demon. But they never realized the true horror that awaited them. One night, a group of friends decided to take a late-night swim in the lake. As they splashed around in the cool water, they couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. Suddenly, one of the friends screamed as something grabbed her leg and pulled her under. The others frantically tried to find her, but it was too late. One by one, the friends were dragged under the water by the sinister creature. They struggled to fight back, but it was no use. Ogopogo was too strong. Their bodies were never recovered, and the legend of the water demon only grew stronger. The people of the Okanagan Valley knew that they could never let their guard down, for Ogopogo was always watching and waiting for its next victim. Before we go on with the stories, I remind you to like the video and subscribe to support the channel. The Haunted Houseboat. It was a moonless night, and the lake was still as glass. A group of teenagers dared each other to swim out to the abandoned houseboat, which had been left to rot on the edge of the lake for years. They had heard the rumors of strange noises coming from the boat at night, and they were eager to see if the stories were true. As they swam closer, they noticed a dark shadow moving beneath the surface of the water. Suddenly, the shadow grew larger, and they could make out the unmistakable shape of Ogopogo swimming towards them. They screamed and tried to swim back to shore, but the creature was too fast. It grabbed hold of one of them, pulling them under the water and into the depths below. Days later, the police found the body of one of the teenagers washed up on the shore, but the others were never found. The locals whispered that the haunted houseboat was cursed by Ogopogo and that anyone who dared to go near it would suffer the same fate. Some claim to have seen the creature swimming around the boat at night, its glowing red eyes watching from the darkness. Years went by and the houseboat remained abandoned, but the stories continued to spread and the locals grew more and more afraid. They avoided the lake at night and whispered about the cursed boat in hushed tones. One night, a group of tourists decided to take a boat ride on the lake. They laughed at the locals' superstitions and made their way towards the haunted houseboat. But as they drew closer, they heard the strange noises coming from the boat. They could hear the sound of something moving inside and the creaking of old wood. Suddenly, the boat began to rock back and forth as if something was trying to push it over. The tourists screamed and tried to flee, but their boat wouldn't start. They were trapped at the mercy of the haunted houseboat and the creature that lurked beneath the water. As they huddled together, praying for rescue, they could hear the sound of something climbing onto their boat. They could feel its icy breath on their skin and the weight of its massive body as it pressed down on them. And then everything went dark. The next thing they knew, they were waking up on the shore of the lake, their boat smashed to pieces. They were covered in bruises and cuts, but they were alive. They looked out at the water and saw the creature's shadow moving beneath the surface, disappearing into the darkness. From that day on, they never spoke of the haunted houseboat again. They warned others to stay away from the lake at night and to never tempt fate by daring Ogopogo. The legend of the cursed houseboat lived on, and the locals whispered that the creature was still out there, waiting for its next victim. Years later, a group of researchers decided to investigate the stories of Ogopogo and the haunted houseboat. They took their equipment out onto the lake, determined to find out once and for all if the creature was real. As they floated on the water, they heard the strange noises coming from the direction of the houseboat. They turned their cameras towards it, hoping to capture some evidence of the creature. Suddenly, the boat began to rock back and forth, and they could hear something moving inside. As they watched in horror, the creature burst out of the water, its massive body towering over them. Its eyes glowed red in the darkness, and its massive jaws opened wide. They screamed and tried to flee, but it was too late. The creature had them in its grasp, dragging them down into the depths below. The legend of Ogopogo and the cursed houseboat continued to haunt the lake, and the locals knew better than to tempt fate by venturing out onto the water at night. They knew that the creature was out there, waiting for its next victim, and that the cursed houseboat was just one of many stories that would keep the legend alive for generations to come. The missing fishermen. The sun was setting over the calm waters of the lake, and the fishermen were returning to shore after a long day on the water, but one boat never made it back. The search party scoured the lake for days, but they found no trace of the missing fishermen. The locals whispered that Ogopogo was to blame. They had heard the stories of the creature pulling fishermen off their boats and dragging them to the depths below. Some claimed to have seen the glowing red eyes of the creature watching them from the water, as if waiting for its next victim. One night, a group of fishermen decided to test their luck and try to catch Ogopogo. They believed that the creature was just a legend, and that they could easily catch it and prove everyone wrong. They set out in their boat, armed with fishing nets and harpoons. As they rowed deeper into the lake, the water began to churn and froth. Suddenly, the boat was lifted out of the water and thrown onto its side. The fishermen screamed as they were thrown into the water, struggling to stay afloat in the dark and freezing water. And then they felt it. Something brushed against their legs, something massive and cold. They could hear its breathing and the sound of its massive body moving through the water. They tried to swim to the surface, but it was too late. The creature had already grabbed hold of them, pulling them down into the darkness below. Their bodies were never found. The locals whispered that the fishermen had angered Ogopogo by trying to catch it, and that the creature had taken its revenge. From that day on, the fishermen avoided the lake at night and whispered about the cursed waters that lay beneath the surface. But the legends of Ogopogo continued to spread, and tourists flocked to the lake in hopes of catching a glimpse of the elusive creature. Some came armed with cameras and binoculars, hoping to capture photographic evidence of its existence. One group of tourists decided to take a boat ride on the lake, despite the warnings of the locals. They believed that Ogopogo was just a myth and that they were perfectly safe on the water. But as they sailed deeper into the lake, they noticed a strange mist rising from the water. The mist grew thicker and thicker until they could barely see in front of them. Suddenly, the boat was lifted out of the water and tossed onto its side. The tourists screamed as they were thrown into the water, struggling to keep their heads above the surface, and then they saw it, the massive body of Ogopogo rising from the depths below, its glowing red eyes fixed on them, and they could hear the sound of its breathing. It circled around them, its massive body casting a shadow over the water. They tried to swim to the shore, but it was too late. The creature grabbed hold of them, dragging them down into the darkness below. The legends of the missing fishermen and the cursed lake only grew after that night. The locals whispered that Ogopogo was real, and that those who dared to test their luck on the water would suffer the same fate. The tourists never returned, and the lake remained shrouded in mystery and legend. To this day, the creature known as Ogopogo remains a terrifying presence in the hearts and minds of the locals, a legend that will never be forgotten. The shadow in the water. As the sun set over the tranquil waters of Okanagan Lake, a group of friends huddled around a campfire on the shore. They shared stories and laughter as they enjoyed the peaceful evening. But their merriment was short-lived. Suddenly, one of the group members pointed out to the lake and exclaimed, "What is that?" All eyes turned to the water, and they saw a dark shadow moving beneath the surface. It was large and sinuous, twisting and turning in the depths below. As they watched in horror, the shadow began to rise closer to the surface, revealing two glowing red eyes. The group was paralyzed with fear as the creature emerged from the water. It was unlike anything they had ever seen before, a monstrous beast with scales as black as the abyss and teeth as sharp as knives. They knew instantly that it was Ogopogo, the infamous creature of the lake. As it swam towards them, the group scrambled to their feet and ran for their lives, but the beast was too fast. It dragged one of them down into the water, disappearing into the dark depths below. The rest of the group made it back to shore, trembling and shaken to their core. From that day on, they would never forget the terror they felt when they saw the shadow in the water and the glowing red eyes of Ogopogo. The legend of the creature only grew stronger in their minds, haunting them for years to come. After that terrifying experience, the group of friends refused to go near the lake at night or even talk about their encounter. However, the incident sparked curiosity among others in the town, and the legend of the creature began to spread. Rumors spread that Ogopogo was a cursed creature that had been summoned from the depths of the lake by a powerful shaman many years ago. The creature had the power to curse those who looked upon it and would drag them down into the dark waters, never to be seen again. As time passed, more and more people came forward with sightings of the shadow in the water and the glowing red eyes of the creature. Some claimed that it was a shape-shifting monster that could take on the form of anything it desired, while others believed that it was a demon sent to terrorize the town. Despite numerous attempts to capture or study the creature, no concrete evidence of Ogopogo's existence could be found. Some scientists claimed that the sightings were nothing more than hoaxes or misidentified natural phenomena, but the townspeople refused to be convinced. To this day, the legend of Ogopogo and the shadow in the water lives on, instilling fear and awe in those who live near Okanagan Lake. People still report sightings of the creature, and some even claim to have felt its icy grip dragging them down into the depths below. Whether or not Ogopogo is real, the legend remains a powerful and terrifying part of local lore. The ancient curse. Long ago, in the land of the Okanagan people, there lived a powerful shaman who was revered by all. He was known for his wisdom and his ability to commune with the spirits of the land and the water. But despite his power, the shaman was betrayed by his own people, who sought to use his abilities for their own gain. Enraged by their treachery, the shaman placed a curse upon the lake that would bring great danger to anyone who dared to enter its waters. The curse was said to manifest itself in the form of a terrifying creature that would lurk in the depth, waiting to drag unsuspecting victims down into the darkness. As time passed, the legend of the cursed lake grew, and people began to fear the monster that was said to inhabit its waters. They spoke of a creature with a long, serpentine body, razor-sharp teeth, and glowing red eyes that could see through the darkness. Despite the warnings, some fishermen dared to venture out onto the lake, hoping to catch a bountiful harvest. But as they cast their nets into the water, they felt a tug, and suddenly their boats were pulled under as the creature's powerful jaws clamped down upon them. As more and more people disappeared, the legend of the cursed lake grew even stronger. Some said that the shaman's curse had awakened a terrible monster that could not be contained. Others claimed that the curse had never truly been lifted, and that the creature would continue to haunt the lake until the end of time. To this day, some say that the curse still holds, and that the creature known as Ogopogo still lurks in the depths of the Okanagan Lake, waiting to claim its next victim. Whether it is a product of ancient magic or simply a myth, the legend of the cursed lake remains one of the most chilling tales in all of North America. Despite the fear that Ogopogo instilled in the hearts of the Okanagan people, there were still those who refused to believe in the legend. One such person was a young fisherman named Thomas, who had grown up on the shores of the lake and had heard stories of the creature all his life. But Thomas was not one to be scared off by mere tales, and he continued to fish on the lake, determined to prove that the legend was nothing more than a myth. He spent countless hours on the water, but no matter how hard he tried, he could never seem to catch any fish. One night, as he sat in his boat, gazing out at the still waters of the lake, he heard a strange noise. It was a low, guttural growl that seemed to be coming from the depths below. Thomas peered into the water, trying to see what could be causing the noise, but he saw nothing. Suddenly, his boat began to shake violently, and he realized that something was pulling it down into the water. He tried to fight it, but it was too strong, and he was soon submerged in the icy depths of the lake. As he struggled to stay afloat, he caught a glimpse of a massive, shadowy figure moving beneath the water. It was unlike anything he had ever seen before, a long, sinuous body with glowing red eyes that seemed to stare straight through him. In that moment, Thomas knew that the legend of Ogopogo was no mere myth. It was a terrifying reality, and he was now trapped in its grasp. To this day, no one knows what happened to Thomas, or whether he ever escaped the clutches of the lake's legendary monster, but his disappearance served as a warning to all who dared to challenge the power of the shaman's curse, and the legend of Ogopogo continues to strike fear into the hearts of those who venture out onto the dark waters of the Okanagan Lake. Thanks for tuning into our scary story today. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to our channel for more spooky tales like this one. Until next time, stay safe and keep your lights on at night.